What's up, everybody? Jeffrey Bannock here. Let's go ahead and get everything going in the group as well. Looks like we are good and we are live in the group. And looks like we are live. What's up, everybody? Jeffrey Bannock here. Happy Tuesday, October 1st. Great day here. Make sure everything is good. Looks good on everything. All right. So we are on Exodus chapter 19. We are out Mount Sinai. Interesting. So hope everybody's having a great day today, and I hope that you have a great rest of your week. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into today's reading and finish up. So let me get a drink of coffee here. At Mount Sinai. On the first day of the third month after the Israelites left Egypt, on that very day they came to the desert of Sinai. And after they set out from Rephidim, they entered the desert of Sinai, and Israel camped there in the desert in front of the mountain. Then Moses went up to God the Lord and called to him from the mount and said, This is what you are to say to the descendants of Jacob, and what you're to tell the people of Israel. You yourselves have seen what I did to Egypt, and how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now, if you obey me fully and keep my covenant, then out of all nations you will be my treasured possession. Although the whole earth is mine, for me you will be for me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words that you are to speak to the Israelites. So Moses went back and summoned the elders of the people and set before them all the words the Lord had commanded him to speak. The people also responded together, "When will we do everything the Lord has said?" So Moses brought their answer back to the Lord. The Lord said to Moses, "I'm going to come to you in a dense cloud so that the people will hear me speak with you and will always put their trust in you." Then Moses told the Lord what the people had said. And the Lord said to Moses, "Go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow. Have them wash their clothes and be ready by the third, because on that day the Lord will come down on Mount Sinai in the sight of all people. Put limits for the people around the mountain and tell them, be careful that you do not approach the mountain or touch it, or touch the foot of it. Whoever touches the mount is to be put to death. They are to be stoned or shot with arrows. Not a hand is to be laid on them. No person or animal will be permitted to live. Only when the ram's horn sounds a long blast may you approach the mountain. After Moses had gone down the mountain to the people, he consecrated them and washed their clothes. Then he said to the people, "Prepare yourselves for the third day, abstain from sexual relations." On the morning of the third day, there was thunder and lightning with a thick cloud over the mountain, and a very loud trumpet blast. Everyone at the camp trembled. Then Moses led the people out of the camp to meet God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. Mount Sinai was covered with smoke because the Lord had descended on it in fire. The smoke billowed up from it like smoke from a furnace, and the whole mountain trembled violently. As the sound of the trumpet grew louder and louder, Moses spoke, and the voice of the Lord answered him. The Lord descended to the top of Mount Sinai and called Moses to the top of the mountain. So Moses went up. And the Lord said to him, "Go down and warn the people so they do not force their way to see the Lord, and many of them perish. Even the priests who approach the Lord must consecrate themselves, or the Lord will break out against them." Moses said to the Lord, "The people Mount Sinai be, cannot come up Mount Sinai because you yourself warned us. Put limits around the mountain and set it apart as holy." The Lord replied, "Go down and bring Aaron up with you, but the priest and the people must not force their way through to come up to the Lord, or he will break out against them." So Moses went down to the people and told them. Exodus 20. The Ten Commandments. And God spoke these words: "I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourselves an image in the form of anything in heaven above, or on earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall now not bow down to them or worship them before I, the Lord your God. I am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the parents for the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing me love to thousands of generations for those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do your work, but on the seventh day is the Sabbath day to the Lord your God. Let's see, on it you shall not do any work, neither you nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your animal, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that was in them, and he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God has given you. You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not give false testimony against your neighbor, you shall not covet your neighbor's house, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. When the people saw you, the thunder and lightning, and heard the trumpet, and saw the smoke of the mountain, they trembled in fear. They stayed at a distance. And Moses said, "Speak to us yourself, and we will listen, but do not have God speak to us, or we will die." Moses said to the people, do not be afraid. God has come to test you, so that the fear of God will be with you to keep you from sinning. The people remained at a distance while Moses approached the thick darkness where God was. Idols and altars. I don't know why I reversed that. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Tell the Israelites this: You have seen for yourselves that I have spoken to you from heaven. Do not make any gods to be alongside me. Do not make for yourself gods of silver or gold, or gods of gold. Make an altar of earth for me and sacrifice on it your burnt offerings and fellowship offerings, your sheep and goats, and your cattle. Wherever I cause my name to be honored, I will come to you and I will bless you. If you make an altar of stones for me, do not build it with dressed stones, for I will defile it if you use a tool on it. You will defile it if you use a tool on it. And do not go to my altar on steps, or your private parts may be exposed. That's sort of funny. Do not go up to my altar on steps, or your private parts may be exposed. That's interesting. All right, Exodus 21. Nice. Uh, these are the laws that are set before them. Hebrew servants. All right, interesting. If you buy a Hebrew servant, he is to be your servant for 6 years, but in the seventh year he shall go free without paying anything. If he comes alone, he is to go free alone. If he has a wife, then he comes when he comes, she is to go with him. If his master gives him a wife, and she bears him sons or daughters, the woman and her children shall belong to her master, and only the man shall go free. Interesting. But if a servant declares, "I love my master and my wife and children, and do not want to go free," then his master must take him before the judges. He shall then take him he shall take him to the door or the doorpost and pierce his ear with an awl. Then he will be his servant for life. If a man sells his daughter as a servant, she is not to go free as the male servants do. If she does not please the master who has selected her for himself, he must let her be redeemed. He has no right to sell her to foreigners, because she has broken her faith. He has broken he has broken faith with her. If he selects her for his sons, he must grant her the rights of a daughter. If he marries another woman, he must not deprive the first of her food, clothing, and marital rights. If he does not provide her with these three things, she is to go free without any payment of money. Personal injuries. Anyone who strikes a person with a fatal blow is to be put to death. However, if it is not done intentionally, but God lets it happen, they are to flee to a place I will designate. But if anyone schemes and kills someone deliberately, that person is to be taken from my altar and put to death. Anyone who attacks their father or mother is to be put to death. Anyone who kidnaps someone is to be put to death, whether their victim was to be sold or is still in the kidnapper's possession. Anyone who curses their father or mother is to be put to death. Wow. If anyone quarrels and one person is hit with a stone or with their fist, the victim does not die, but is confined to bed. The one who struck the blow will not be liable if the other can get up and walk outside with the staff. However, the guilty party must pay the injured person for any loss of time and see that victim is completely healed. Interesting. So he's like, hey, if you beat somebody up and you hurt them and they're not able to work, then you have to compensate them. See, so even back then they had judgmental laws and stuff like that. Interesting. That's interesting. I wonder if this was the first time that it was actually written down somewhere. I know that like the Egyptians had their laws and stuff, but I guess this has gone to universal law, sort of. Shoot. Anyone who beats their male or female with a rod must be punished if the slave dies as a direct result, but are not to be punished if the slave recovers after a day or two, since the slave is their property. Wow. If the people are fighting and hit a pregnant woman and she gives birth prematurely, but there is no serious injury, the offender must be fined whatever the woman's husband demand and the court allows. But if there is serious injury, you are to take life for a life, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, hand for a hand, foot for a foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, bruise for bruise. An owner who hits a male or female slave in the eye and destroys it must let the slave go free to compensate for the eye. And an owner who knocks out the tooth of a male or female slave must let the slave go free to compensate for the tooth. But if a bull gores a man or woman to death, the bull must be stoned to death and the meat must be eaten, but the owner of the bull will not be held responsible. Interesting. If, however, the bull is a habit of goring and the owner has been warned and is not kept at pen and it kills a man or woman, the bull is to be stoned and the owner is to be put to death. However, if the payment is demanded, the owner must redeem his life by the payment of whatever is demanded. The law also applies if the bull gores a son or daughter. If the bull gores a male or female slave, the owner must pay 30 shekels of silver to the master of the slave, and the bull is to be stoned to death. If anyone uncovers a pit or digs one and fails to cover it, and an ox or donkey falls in it, the one who opened the pit must pay the owner for the loss and take the dead animal in exchange. If anyone's bull if anyone's bull injures someone else's bull and it dies, the two parties are to sell the live one and divide both the money and the dead animal equally. Interesting. However, if it is known that the bull had a habit of goring, yet the owner did not keep a pen, the owner must pay animal for animal and take the dead animal in exchange. Exodus 22. So this is the first time in the Old Covenant we've really got to any laws at all. I mean, this is really the first time they mentioned it. They've had a covenant before for the land and different things like that, but this is the first time they've actually laid down any type of laws about what to do, what not to do, how to treat people, that type of thing. Exodus 22, protection of property. Whoever steals an ox or sheep and slaughters it and sells it must pay back 5 head of cattle for the oxen and 4 sheep for the sheep. If a thief is caught breaking in at night and is struck a fatal blow, the offender is not guilty of bloodshed. But if it happens after sunrise, the offender is guilty of bloodshed. Interesting. So if somebody breaks in your house, you can kill them if it's at night, but if it's day, you can't. Interesting. Anyone who steals must certainly make restitution, but if they have nothing, they must be sold. They must be sold to pay for their theft. If the stolen animal is found alive in their possession, whether ox, donkey, or sheep, they must pay back double. If anyone grazes their livestock in a field or vineyard and lets them stray and they graze on someone else's field, the offender must make restitution from the best of their own field or vineyard. If a fire breaks out and into thorn bushes so that it burns stalks of grain or standing grain or whole field, the one who started the fire must make restitution. If anyone gives a neighbor gold or goods for safe keeping, and they are stolen from the neighbor's house, the thief, if caught, must pay back double. Interesting. But if the thief is not found, the owner of the house must appear before judges, and they must determine whether the owner of the house has laid hands on another person's property. In all cases, if illegal possession of an ox, a donkey, a sheep, a garment, or any lost property about which somebody says, "This is mine," both parties are to bring their cases before the judges. The one whom the judges declare guilty must pay back double to the other. If anyone gives a donkey, an oxen, a sheep, or other animal to their neighbor for safekeeping, and it dies or is injured, it must be taken away while no one is looking. The issue between them will be settled by the taking of an oath before the Lord that the neighbor did not lay hands on the other person's property. The owner is to accept this, and no restitution is required. But if the animal was stolen from the neighbor, restitution must be made to the owner. But if anyone the owner. If it is torn to pieces by wild animals, the neighbor shall bring in the remains as evidence and should not be required to pay for the torn animal. If anyone borrows an animal from their neighbor and is injured or dies while the owner is not present, they must make restitution. But if the owner is with the animal, the borrower will not have to pay. If the animal is hired, the money paid for the hire covers the loss. Interesting. So the owner's not there and something happens to it, they have to pay it. But if the owner is there and something happens, that's just considered part of the rental payment. Interesting. Interesting. Social responsibility. If a man seduces a virgin who is not pledged to be married and sleeps with her, he must pay the bride price, and she shall be his wife. If a man seduces a virgin, is not pledged to be married, and sleeps with her, he must pay the bride's price, and she shall be his wife. Wow. If her father absolutely refuses to give her to him, he must pay the bride price for virgins. Do not allow a sorceress to live. If anyone who has sexual relations with the animals be put to death, anyone who sacrifices to another god other than the Lord must be destroyed. Do not mistreat or oppress a foreigner, for you are foreigners in Egypt. Do not take advantage of the widow or the fatherless. If you and they cry out to me, I will certainly hear their cry. My anger will be aroused, and I will kill you with a sword. Your wives will become widows, and your children fatherless. If you lend money out to one people among who is needy, do not treat it like a business deal. Charge no interest. If you take your neighbor's cloak as a pledge, return it by sunset, because the cloak is the only covering your neighbor has. What else can they sleep in? When they cry out to me, I will hear, for I am compassionate. Do not blaspheme God or curse the ruler of your people. Do not hold back offerings from your granaries or your vats. You must give me the firstborn of your sons. Hmm. Do the same with cattle and sheep. Let them stay with their mothers for 7 days, but give them me on the eighth day. You are to be holy people. Do not eat meat of an animal torn by wild beasts. Throw it to the dogs. Exodus 23. Cool. And we are doing 24 today. Sounds good. All right. Exodus 23. Laws of justice and mercy. Do not spread false reports. Do not help a guilty person by being a malicious witness. Do not follow the crowd by doing wrong. When they give testimony in a lawsuit, do not pervert justice by siding with the crowd, and do not show favoritism to a poor person in a lawsuit. If you come across your enemy's ox or a donkey wanders off, be sure to return it. If you see the donkey of someone who hates you fallen down under its load, do not leave it there. Be sure to help them with it. Do not deny justice to the poor people in their lawsuits. Have nothing to do with false charge, and do not put innocent or honest person to death, for I will not acquit the guilty. Do not accept a bribe for a blind person who sees the twist of the words of the innocent. Do not accept a bribe for bribe blinds for those who twist the words of the innocent. Do not oppress a foreigner. You yourselves know how it feels to be foreigners, because you were foreigners in Egypt. Sabbath laws. For 6 years you are to sow your fields and harvest the crops. But on the seventh year let the land lie unplowed and unused. Then the poor among your people may get food from it, and the wild animals may eat what is left. Do the same for your vineyard and your olive grove. 6 days do your work, but on the seventh day do not work, so that you and your oxen and your donkey may rest, and so that the slave born in your household and foreigner living among you may be refreshed. Be careful to do anything I've said. Do not invoke the names of other gods, and do not let them be on your lips. It's interesting the way they say that they say these laws too, like there really are other gods, but they just don't matter to God. You know what I mean? Like if you if you've seen like there's other energies out there, that are, I guess, evil. I mean, some are, I mean, I would assume that anything's not of God is of Satan, right? It's either good or bad, but there's definitely other energies and stuff out there that does stuff. And maybe it's Satan in other forms, and they mention God. So I'm just curious, um, if there are other gods, you know what I mean? Like, but maybe they're just not powerful. I don't know. It just funny. Like, why even mention them? To do not invoke names of other gods. Like it's like they're even important, even slightly. Hmm. The three annual festivals. 3 times a year you are to celebrate a festival to me. Celebrate the festival of unleavened bread. For 7 days eat bread made without yeast, as I commanded you. Do this at the time appointed in the month of Avi. For in that month you came out of Egypt. No one is to appear before me empty-handed. Celebrate the festival of harvest with first fruits of the crops you sow in your field. Celebrate the festival of ingathering at the end of the year when you gather your crops from the field. 3 times a year, all the men are to appear before the sovereign Lord. Do not offer the blood of a sacrifice to me along with anything containing yeast, for the fat of my festival offerings must be kept until the morning. Bring the best of the first fruits of your soil to the house of the Lord of your God, the house of the Lord your God. Do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk. Okay. God angels prepares the way. See, I'm sending an angel ahead of you to guard you along the way and bring you to the place I have prepared. Pay attention to him and listen to what he says. Do not rebel against him. He will not forgive your rebellion since my name is in him. If you listen carefully to what he says and do what I say, I will be an enemy to your enemies and will oppose those who oppose you. My angel will go out ahead of you and bring you into the land of the Himorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Canaanites, Hivites, and Jezebites, and I will wipe them out. Do not bow down before their gods or worship them or follow their practices. You must demolish them and break their sacred stones to pieces. Worship the Lord your God, and his blessings will be on your food and water. I will take away your sickness from you, and none will miscarry or be barren in your land. I will give you a full lifespan. I will send my terrors ahead of you and throw into confusion every nation you encounter. I will make all your enemies turn their backs and run. I will send the hornets ahead of you and drive the Hivites, the Canaanites, and Hittites out of your way. I will not drive them out in a single year because the land would become desolate and the wild animals too numerous for you. Little by little, I will drive them out before you until you have increased enough to take possession of the land. I will establish your borders from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea and from the desert to the Euphrates River. I will give into your hands the people who live in the land, and I will drive them out before you. Do not make a covenant with them or their gods. Do not let them live in your land, or they will cause sin against me. Because worship of their gods will certainly snare you. All right, Exodus 24, just zooming through. This is great. I just love this every morning. The covenant confirmed. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Come up to the Lord, and you and Aaron, Nadab, Adu, Adu, Abu, I don't know, and the 70 elders of Israel. You are to worship at a distance. But Moses alone is to approach the Lord. The others must not come near, and the people must not come with him. When Moses went to the people, when me went, blah, 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 can't talk. When Moses went and told all the people the Lord's words, and laws. They responded with one voice, "Everything the Lord has said, we will do." Moses then wrote down everything the Lord said. He got up early in the morning and built an altar at the foot of the mountain and set up the mountain 12 stone pillars representing the 12 tribes of Israel. Then he sent young Israelite men, and they offered burnt offerings and sacrificed young bulls as fellowship offerings to the Lord. Moses took half of the blood and put it in bowls, and the other half he splashed against the altar. Then he took the book of the covenant and read it to the people, and they responded, "We will do anything the Lord has said. Um, we will obey." Moses then took the blood, sprinkled it on the people, and said, "This is the blood of the covenant the Lord has made with you in accordance to all these words." Moses and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, Abihu, I don't know. And the 70 elders of Israel went up and saw the God of Israel under his feet was something like pavement made out of lapis lazuli, as bright blue as the sky. But God did not raise his hand against these elders of Israelites. They saw God and they ate and drank. The Lord said to Moses, "Come up with me to the mountain and stay here, and I will give you the tablets of stone with the law and commandments I have written for their instruction." Then Moses set out with Joshua, his aide, and Moses went up to the mountain of God. He said to the elders, wait here for us until we come back to you. Aaron and Hur are with you, and anyone involved in a dispute can go to them." When Moses went up on the mountain, the cloud covered it, and the glory of the Lord settled on Mount Sinai. For 6 days the clouds covered the mountain, and on the seventh day the Lord called to Moses from within the cloud. To the Israelites, the glory of the Lord looked like consuming fire on top of the mountain. Then Moses entered the cloud, and as he went up the mountain, and he stayed on the mountain the 40 days and 40 nights. Wow, that was quick. All right. So thanks everybody for joining in today. Not seeing anybody in the chat or anything, but that's cool. I appreciate anyone who joins in. Tomorrow we'll be reading another 6 chapters and seeing here Moses is going to come down the mountain. And I imagine this is where he's going to break the stone's tablets. I'm really excited about